Sometimes humans need to be put in their place, and when it comes to bashing knights and cutting down mages, there's only one skeleton ready for the task. Hey there friends, it's Codiak here, one half of the team behind Legacy Gaming, and today we're playing Skul the Hero Slayer to find out if it's truly worth your time. Now, as a former Dead Cells fanboy, I wholeheartedly appreciate a good 2D side-scrolling roguelite. That's why when Skul came up in my feed, I was determined to give it a look. For the discounted price of around $15, I figured, hell, what did I have to lose? For those unfamiliar with the game, let's take it back a bit. You play as Skul, a tiny, unimpressive skeleton soldier on a quest to save the Demon King from the first hero. If you haven't already figured it out, the script is flipped. You play as the baddies, and the humans, well, they've got some pretty punchable faces, so it's alright. As I mentioned, Skul is a roguelite, which means once you die, you'll start back at the beginning, but thanks to some unlockables and some simple upgrade systems, each run should, in theory, get a bit easier. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, when I first started playing the game, I wasn't immediately hooked. Skul manages to combine elements from games like Dead Cells, but also adds in the charm and whimsy of a Kirby game. More on that later. You'll make your way from room to room, randomly presented to you, but always predefined in their design. You'll start to get the flow of the various layouts relatively quickly, recognizing which rooms will be a cakewalk and which will drive you up a wall. What I did notice, and not particularly like, was the fact that room variety wasn't that great. There were no secrets to discover and nothing to really make the world stand out. Sure, your adventures take you from one biome to the next, but within that biome, there's nothing that really made me stop and appreciate my surroundings. This doesn't immediately disqualify the game as good, but it does stand out, and in conjunction with the incredibly out-of-place background music, it's not hard to find some faults with the game. Luckily, this is where most of my griping stops, and we focus on the good things that make Skul a jolly good time. Now, I mentioned Kirby before, and I want to get back to that. Being a skeleton, Skul has the ability to pop off his head and replace it with another one more powerful that gives him a variety of abilities. Much like sucking up an enemy and absorbing their effect, that's pretty much what we're doing here, but with powerful skulls. I was totally convinced we weren't going to see anything spectacular here, just your run-of-the-mill swordsman, spearman, the high fantasy stuff. When all of a sudden, a rocker skull appeared and gave me the power to shred my enemies with the power of rock and roll. It's fair to say that was the turning point in my experience with the game. Skul is incredibly RNG reliant. If you get a good run and a powerful skull early, you're set for the remainder of the run. You can spend all your time focusing on building items that enhance your skull's specialities, and you can hopefully make it to the end. Each skull is infused with a number of abilities, and the same skull may not have the same moveset the next time you pick it up. There are tiers of skulls, from common to legendary, and the gap between the worst and the best is ridiculous. There are systems in place that allow you to upgrade from your shitty thief skull to a more powerful shitty thief skull, but it's not well implemented and still lags far behind the more powerful options in the game. What is really interesting is that you can have two of these skulls equipped at any one time and can hot swap between them to gain access to different special movesets associated with those skulls. It can be a really rewarding experience, a screen lit up like a Christmas tree, enemies crumpling in your wake. Now, on the flip side of things, if you get a skull that you don't like or just isn't that good, you'll have to muddle through and pray that you pick up a better one along the way, but that fateful moment may never actually come. Skul gives you a few tools to control your own destiny, most specifically allowing you to choose the type of reward you get at the end of the next room by picking a specific door before you enter said room. If you need skulls, you go through the skull door. You want gold or items, well, you go through the treasure door. Simple enough. When you get a skull that works and pump it up with a few items to boost your stats, the game is intoxicating. You'll fly around each room, rip apart enemies with your abilities, all while collecting resources and pushing deeper towards your objective. When things aren't going your way, the game feels more like a chore than something meant to entertain. Unfortunately, that feeling is only fixed once you die and start over, and sadly, it's 100% dependent on luck. Now, you'd imagine things would be alleviated by the roguelite elements, right? The things meant to keep pushing your progression forward. Well, not exactly. Skul is no Hades, and the upgrades that you can purchase between runs are few and far between, and only rarely make a substantial difference on your run-to-run progression. And look, I want to be clear, I've now compared Skul to Dead Cells and Hades, two of the best indie games of the last few years, and that's not exactly fair. And this is where I really get tripped up with the game. It's damn fun, but also slightly infuriating. I think we've all played a game like that during our tenure as video game enthusiasts. After a run, I couldn't help loading back in and getting right back into bashing Hummies. I think the real selling point is the charm. The game is bright and charming and doesn't really take itself too seriously. The action doesn't get weighed down by long story elements, and at the end of the day, it plays more like an action game from the mid-90s while having the polish of a more modern game. While Skul does play like an arcade game, there are moments and systems that are incredibly deep, specifically regarding the items. Not only do you need to understand how your current Skul handles attacks, whether it be magic or physical, you also need to understand how the various items tie into those damage types and how you can string items together to create unique set bonuses. The game doesn't do a great job of explaining any of this. In fact, I'm pretty sure it doesn't mention it at all, but once you take a few minutes to stop and read some tooltips, things become more clear. With a proper build, you can take out hordes of enemies and even tackle some of the bosses, which are really quite enjoyable. I found each to have an appropriate diverse moveset and be decent obstacles to defeat and overcome. Again, think Kirby, but with a bit more depth, and you'll get the picture. Skul's adventures come to an end when you reach the final boss, the first hero, and that's not a spoiler, it's literally the objective from the beginning. It's a bite-sized adventure that will keep you playing for hours on end, but unlike some of the other games in the genre, once you beat it, there's very little reason to keep going. The game's replayability is high from moment to moment, but overall, there's not much to keep enticing players to play once they've defeated the game. Pride, bragging rights, a few cosmetics for your castle, that's pretty much it, but if that works for you, hey, more power to you. So here we are back at the start asking the question, is Skul the Hero Slayer worth your time? And the answer is yeah, I think so. Timing is everything, even in the video game world, and with not much going on in the gaming world at the beginning of 2021, I think it's a perfect chance to take a break from Assassin's Creed or Call of Duty and check out Southpaw Games' quirky little action platformer, Skul the Hero Slayer. For a small Korean studio putting out their first game, I think the devs did an outstanding job. I'll definitely be supporting the game and looking forward to what these guys have in store for us next time around. And there you have it, friends, my thoughts on Skul the Hero Slayer. I know we've spent a lot of time covering Assassin's Creed Valhalla in the last few months, but don't forget, Legacy Gaming covers all sorts of games, so if you want more exciting video game content in your feed, don't forget to hit that thumbs up, and of course subscribe to the channel. It's completely free for you, it really does help us out a ton. You can also check us out on Discord. We've got a great community of around 6,000 members, but we're low-key, it's a good time. So check out that link below. Enjoy today. My name is Codiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.